Greetings, YouTube. Uh, Today I went to my mother's estate for the last time, her property. Uh, per her will, I was allowed on site to peruse her tools and take anything I wanted, as well as receive a piece of her jewelry. And I took a walk through the living space before I went down to the shop. And like me, my mother had a basement shop of her own, though hers was much larger. Get a lot more space down there. Didn't really take advantage of it the way she could have, I think, but she had a lot of space. And while looking around there, I saw things that made me see that the apple hasn't fallen too far from the tree. She had a mobile work table that she had made out of the base of a grill. She reused the wheel base of a grill and turned it into a table. Something just like I would do, or technically I've done. Repurposing things as something else. I do it all the time. It's pretty much the entire purpose of my shop. I reuse one thing and I make another out of it. While poking around, I found this guy, which technically is not a tool, but he was sitting on a shelf. He was not in a box. And he is from the Christmas village that my mother and I had built for a train that went around our Christmas tree. It was on a 4x8 piece of plywood that had a 2x4 base with superstructure in it, and it had a permanent track on it, and it was permanently covered in a green grass-like material. And then we would put houses on it, which all had holes drilled in there, so we could do lights inside them. And there were figures that went all over it, and Santa here was one of the characters on that display. Um, and I don't think anyone's going to miss the fact that he was just lying there on a shelf all by himself. So he's going to go into my curio cabinet as a memento of my mother's. And I have on my desk right here, and I did not place this here. This has been here for years. It's Pebble. It's Pebble I picked up at the beach many, many years ago. I was with my wife when I don't even know if we were married at that point. I'm not positive. But it kind of hits the quintessential Pebble vibe for me. It's just like a very wonderful shape. It's got a great kinetic sensation and just appeals to the neurodivergent in my head. And lying on her toolbox, her tool bench, was this. The apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. And I brought a bunch of her stuff home, tools that I will use. Some I brought home just because they make me think of her. A couple of them, which I know that were stuff that we'd had when we were all living together as a family back before she got divorced. Some of them I think may have been in the family longer than that. A couple of wooden uh, levels, for example, and some things like that. Um, and just some stuff that I'm going to use for projects, like a whole bunch of saw blades. They have I have no emotional attachment to them. They're just saw blades that she had for her circular saw and her table saw. So I'm going to put them into my collection and I'll use them in projects. And they'll live on in something else instead of hanging on a wall or just being given to somebody else. I hope that other people get the rest of the stuff that she's got because she had a lot of tools that I had no interest in. I had a table saw I had no interest in. So I had a tabletop drill press that had never been taken out of the box. So it was in perfect working condition. She had lots of things that were never taken out of the box, never used. That you see behind me is not just a personal affectation. It is a symptom of my executive dysfunction, which I inherited from my mother. Um, and she bequeathed to me this ring. It's an emerald ring. It's got 6 small stones on it, 3 on each side. And it's not particularly valuable. I have no idea what this is worth. I'm never going to know what it's worth. I'm not gonna get it appraised. I don't even, will it actually fit on one of my fingers? It does. It does in fact fit on my little finger. How do you like that? Um, Emerald was my mother's birthstone. And she'd always wanted an emerald ring, but my father would never purchase her one. And he thought it was an extravagance. It wasn't until his second marriage that he realized how important it was to people that you give them gifts that they want. Interesting concept for a guy, but he had to get dry before he figured that one out. And she had always wanted an emerald ring, and he wouldn't get it to her. So when she began to have a side gig where she made cakes, she was very, very good at baking cakes. Not just baking the cake, but the decorating. And she would do incredibly, unbelievably elaborate decorations. Like she did an entire football field for a high school football team once. That was 3 foot by 6 foot with an entire team on the on the on to scale on the cake. It was fabulous. She made an entire switchboard with licorice lines for someone that used to work an actual switchboard at one time. And that afforded her the ability to have her own money, but also squirrel money away that my father could never see. And that helped her in 78 sever the tie and kick his ass out. But remember, in the United States, until 1974, women couldn't have bank accounts of their own. So having money on your own, being able to uh, put things aside where someone else couldn't access them without your permission was a difficult thing to do before that. But in that time, she'd been able to do it with the help of that side gig she had as making cakes. She made cakes for many, many years. I have no idea what happened to all her cake making stuff. I have no interest in it, even if I knew where it was. Uh, but that ring was the first thing she bought herself. And it's the only thing in the collection that I cared about. She had all kinds of jewelry, and I did not give a crap about any of it. All I cared about was that ring. And apparently she knew that because she left it to me. My mother and I had a complex relationship. For pretty much the last 2 years of her life, we had no contact. Um, Same with my father. I've talked about his passing last year on this channel already. But she left me this and the tools that I wanted. We got a full-size ladder out of the deal, which is cool. One of those big extension ladders with the little arms that let you put her on against the building without harming your siding, that kind of thing, which is nice. They're not cheap. And she left me a small retirement account, a small insurance policy, which I'm going to be using to buy myself a drill press for my basement, for my shop. So I'm going to have a proper drill press soon. When the house finally gets sold, and its market value right now is uh, close to 400 grand, I'll be getting some money out of that, enough to cover the cost of the roof we decided to put on. Um, and then there's also a retirement account, which I actually don't even have any idea how much that's worth yet. I had to fill the paperwork in and with copy of her death certificate before they bother to tell me what it's worth. Because I guess they want to make sure she's dead. I guess possibly. I'm not sure, but I guess if I'm hoping it's enough to like say pay off my wife's car, that would be nice. So the visit to her place today kind of closed out that final chapter, with the exception of waiting for that final piece of financial information I have coming to me. And the tools, some of them I'll use, some of them I took just because they're mementos. Um, and the supplies I brought home, some consumables and the saw blades and things I mentioned, I'll use those in my shop, and fasteners and things that I thought I might find useful, they're going to get used. Some Forstner bits designed for a drill press. Um, just some things that will let me do stuff that I can't do right now, which is kind of cool. She's gone. And I didn't feel any pangs of guilt or connection to that place, really. But I did smile repeatedly when I saw how close to the tree the apple did fall, that we collected the same things, that we designed things in our shops the same way, that we had the same kind of fascination with tools. Though I don't have the same affectation for staplers that my mother did. She had an inordinate number of staplers in her shop, both quarter cable, like powered staplers, and just staplers. They were everywhere, including the one she used to keep on her desk, which I didn't take with me because I didn't really need that stapler. Uh, but it's the closing of a chapter, and she's all gone now. So is my father, and the relationship with my sister is probably gone. If two people could do the absolute perfect things that would piss off the other, we did. And both of us have pretty much reached a point in our lives where we think the other has made some really bad life choices. So I don't know if we'll ever be in contact with each other again. I still have technically some blood relationships out there, but I haven't seen some of them in 40 years. So we are not what you would consider a close family. But for today, I discovered that we have still had some things in common. And I still have some fond memories of Christmas in the past. And she's gone now. And I'm still here. And I'm better off than I was last year. And I'm better off than I was 2 years ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And I've grieved her passing a long time ago. And it's just now the book is finally closed. Bye, Mary.